Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, I am blessed with another day to live, and hopefully I could live fullest. So, beginning the day, let us continue with our effort to have the interpretation of the Clean Air Regulations 2014. We have seen earlier slides, and I hope before you get into this slide, I implore that you are able to understand, you have visited, you have seen the full video on Regulation 3, how this law applies, whether you are subjected to this law. Okay, so that is most important. And after you have done that, you may go to this particular slide here. But I have also to encourage that you go through these sessions of the environmental law in sequence that I have arranged for you. Okay, so that you don't miss out anything in between and get confused along the way. So this law is special, especially the Clean Air Regulations 2014. As I said earlier, is one of the best environmental law that I have ever seen and I have ever read, and I'm proud that it is here in this country. Now, nonetheless, this law needs a particular guide, especially if you are new to it or if you are confused with it along the way. Now, I have provided you this particular special slide, and I call it the Google map of this law. I think you are familiar with the Google map. It has helped us around to go around cities, big cities, lots of intersection, lots of exits, and all, and whatnot. And it's difficult to drive around if you're not guided. Especially now going to KL, you've got new roads, new highways coming up virtually almost every month, and the Google map do help a lot. So this is what I'm trying to do for you. I'm trying to display, to guide you with a simple Google map, not as complicated as the Google map that we have used while driving, but this is some form of a map which I normally call the master key. How to go into this law. Which door should we take? If you take the wrong door, you are getting yourself confused with all sorts of provisions, and eventually you find out that it doesn't apply to you. It's a waste of time. And even auditors, if you are doing audit for industries, please make sure you know what type of industry you are going to audit and which part of this particular law that applies to them. All right, so I hope you can find this video useful. Now, okay, I believe that's about it. Let us begin to look at the core of this particular slide. There you are. All right. Find yourself time to look at the diagram, to look into the boxes that I have laid out for you. Maybe read some, glance at some. The blue background, the blue boxes, the what do you call it, pink boxes. What have I showed you? So all I can do is, after you have read everything, all I can do is ask you, do you have any question? If you don't have any question, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. All right, now I'm getting crazy each day talking to this laptop. I have been since I started training, having people in front of me. I'm able to look at the faces and can ask them which process do you work with, what sort of equipment are you handling, what sort of materials are you handling. I have all this information when we do live face-to-face training. But here in this situation, I'm just looking at the slide. It's the screen of my laptop, and it's looking at me, no response, and I'm talking alone. So I'm getting sort of crazy. I think feeling crazy is good. It's tranquility. All right, now let us go on into this. Look, I want you to pay attention in this at this question. There you are. Who? When I say who means what sort of industry are we? We have to identify whether we fall in the first schedule or not, which I will bring you in the next session. All right. Now, this is how you go about this law. Regulation 13. The first question is to ask whether we are subscribing to this particular first schedule. Auditors, especially, please ask your client, are they in the first schedule or not? That's the first question. If they are listed by virtue of the nature of their process, the type of industry, and not only that, the amount of production rate or production throughput that they are processing qualifies them to be in the first schedule, then watch. Something is missing here. Yeah, no, it's not missing. Watch. Their standard of emission. See, this is very important. The limits of emission. What parameter? How much is allowed? All this. Is it mercury? Is it total particulate matter? Is it carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide? What? What it is? Is it suspended, total suspended particulates? What? They are all stipulated here. So for the first schedule industries or industries listed in the first schedule, remember this, automatically you don't have got to look at other features of the law. Their standard is here. Third schedule. Okay, those in the first schedule, their standard of emission and the types of environmental parameters of concern are given in the third schedule. So now we have to identify, are we in the first schedule of industries or not? I hope that's clear. That's the first question we have to ask, especially if you're an external auditor. You may have this challenge to go through. All right, so the first question, the master key into this law is to identify your client belongs to which industry and whether they are listed in the first schedule. If they are listed in the first schedule, their environmental air pollution obligation, parameters, and limits of emissions are all already given in the third schedule. Okay, that's fine. Before we look at other industry which are not in the first schedule, we got to look at this one. Fuel burning equipment. The big type of fuel burning equipment, the big type of genset, the big type of boiler, the big type of furnace, oven, burner, and all this. Because why? When they are big, they have a special standard to comply. Watch. If they are burning solid fuel more than 30 kilogram per hour, meaning if they are burning wood chips more than 30 kilogram per hour, mass per hour, it's mass per time, it is loading, okay? Wood chips, sawdust, fiber, or even garbage. For example, municipal incinerator, they're burning garbage. Those are considered solid fuel under this law, okay? Or what else? They burn coal. What else? They burn what? Clinker, or they burn uh, tires, tire, what do you call it? Tire pallets. You know, we've got tire recycling now. They are being macerated, minced into small chips of rubber, and they're being used as fuel in some burner. Okay, so these are all solid fuel. If that burner is using solid fuel equals to or more than 30 kilogram per hour, then they are considered to be big fuel burning equipment. And if they use other kinds of fuel like this liquid or gas fuel, they could use liquid fuel like light fuel oil, medium fuel oil, heavy fuel oil, or diesel, or even petrol, or paraffin, or methanol, butanol. Well, I've heard some using all this. All right, all this liquid fuel, or even gas fuel like natural gas, liquid petroleum gas, at a rate of 15 kilogram per hour or more, then they are considered big, big fuel burning equipment. And listen carefully, the nature of the fuel in terms of sulfur content is regulated under the second schedule, meaning if they are big boilers, big heaters, all right, big burner, big fuel burning equipment, they are subscribing to second schedule in terms of number one, the sulfur content, number two, the emission. So they don't have to, you don't have to refer them elsewhere. When they are big field burning equipment, absolutely they are what they call sulfur content, the fuel quality, sorry, not just sulfur content, the fuel quality, the quality of solid fuel, the quality of liquid and gas fuel is being regulated by this law. And in fact, the emission from the stack, from the chimney of such equipment is already stipulated under second schedule. Don't have to refer elsewhere. No need. Right? Got it? There will be a case when the company belongs to third schedule activity, but they only have a small fuel burning equipment. What would that be the case now? What would then be? Got it? Some companies are listed in the third schedule, but they have a small standby genset. They have a small burner. They have a small oven. Drying oven, small in terms of fuel consumption, about 20 kilogram per hour of solid fuel, for example, or 8 kilogram per hour of liquid fuel, for example. Then they are not considered big. Where do they belong? Now, we'll answer that later, but at this point, just look at this first. Now, got it? Okay, the other industry with, this is straightforward case, other industries which doesn't appear in the first schedule and they don't have huge fuel burning equipment, automatically their emission standard is by the fourth schedule and the fifth schedule. The fourth schedule is about dioxin and furan, and the fifth schedule is about hazardous emission. Got it? This is the Google map. Now, I go on a little bit further. Does dioxin and furan appear in third schedule? Yes. Does hazardous emission as stipulated in the fifth schedule appear in third schedule also for industries in the first schedule? The answer is yes. Therefore, none of the industry is being left out in this regulation, honestly. And the parameters are really tailored to the type of industry. And this law has been written by professional, I believe, not just lawyers, but also technical people who have got vast experience and knowledge in industrial processes and their respective pollutants generated from each of this industry. They know what they're doing. That is why they come up with such a good law, the best of its kind that I've seen so far. The only law that I've got problem with now is the industrial effluent regulation. It has been like that all the years. It should be improved. All right, but never mind. We'll talk that some other time. But coming back to this law, I hope you are able to comprehend the fact that it is a double standard. Certain industries are grouped as first schedule, certain others are not. Why is it like that? Simple reason. Most of the industries that, if you look carefully, we'll come to that in the first schedule. Most of these industries are well organized, huge, big, and normally they occupy gazetted, heavy industrial area. And they are much easier to control because they are within accessible area for enforcement, for control. They are well organized. They are what they call, in fact, the industrial area is also well managed, well planned. Nonetheless, in this country, there are some other industries that pop up, uh, at random, without prior, I should say, without uh, prior proper planning, etc. And they were built out of convenience for some local niche, or perhaps national niche, or perhaps some other reasons. And they are occupying, some what you call industrial area, which is actually induced from change in land title. In other words, they're not supposed to be there at all, but they are there and they exist and they are licensed and they are legal. So this law has got to govern them, and most of them are contractors to bigger industries. Not all, most of them. And they are scattered in some kind of a light industrial area or even in municipal areas, which is commercial areas. They bring in these small scale industries or temporary industries into these areas, and still they do emit air pollutants, and some of them doing subcontracts for big industries, whereby big industries nowadays are smart. They don't do all these headache environmental concerns processes. So they would sub out things like electroplating, things like preparation of raw mats, and many other processes which is labor intensive perhaps, or which uses some simple technology accessible by the light industry or the local industry. So they do the work, and the product is an intermediate product. They send it back to the big companies, especially those listed in the third schedule. So that's how it all happens. It's just one of the many explanations that I could think of today. I think those on the ground, they know best. They know better than I do. But back to this roadmap, back to this Google map for clean air regulations. I hope you understand. The first question we got to ask is whether our industry of concern is listed in the first schedule or not. If they are listed in the first schedule, their emissions, the types of environmental parameters, and their respective emission limits is already stipulated in the third schedule. Dah ada dekat situ. And then comes to big field equipment. Big field burning equipment, big genset, big oven. If they are big by virtue of the quantum of their fuel, solid fuel, equivalent to or more than 30 kilogram per hour, liquid and gas fuel equivalent or more than 15 kilogram per hour, they are subscribing to the second schedule in terms of fuel quality and emissions standard. Got it? And those other industries are other industries and smaller genset, smaller fuel burning equipment, smaller oven. They are occupying the other group, which is now subscribing to fourth and fifth schedule. The issue is, the problem is sometimes when we got gray areas, like for example in the first case, industry is occupying or listed as a first schedule. All right, got it? The industry is first schedule, but they have smaller, say, burner. How do we make of that? The law has got a clause, simple phrase at the back of at the rear end of the legal statement, as the case may be. Do you find it? Now that simply means if a factory is over here in the first schedule, the factory is the first schedule type of industry, all other, their boiler, their genset, but their boiler, genset, and oven are small, all right? Supposedly fourth, second schedule, but that doesn't happen. Although they have got smaller genset, although they have got smaller burner or oven or furnace, the emission standard still needs to follow second schedule and third schedule, meaning the emission standard from that particular fuel burning equipment has got to comply to second schedule by virtue of the fact that they are situated in an industry which is first schedule industry. What about if the industry is other industries, but they got big boiler, they got big genset? Then the big boiler and big genset, easy, they are subscribing to second schedule, as you could see. And these other industries, they are already subscribing to fourth schedule and fifth schedule. Simple. And another example is the industry is other industry, not listed in the first schedule, and they just use a small boiler or genset or oven. Then The boiler, genset, and oven, the smaller version, not the big type, will have to comply to fourth schedule and fifth schedule. And that particular industrial operation, the emission of air pollutant from their respective processes also has got to conform to or subscribing to fourth and fifth schedule. All right, this is the Google map of Clean Air Regulation 2014 under Regulation 13. Do not worry, I will give you an illustration. I have made ready before you some kind of animation graphics. I'm not good at it. I'm trying my best to make a graphical illustration. Sometimes one slide took me 3 days. Doesn't matter. I'm satisfied with what I do. And for this, I share to all of you so that when Malaysian industry is less susceptible to judicial liability, I believe you would be having more prosperity in terms of your operation. You can employ more people, better economy for us, and well, I can take along once in a while. So, for the time being, please support my work. If you are supporting my work and you're honest with yourself, please do subscribe this YouTube channel and do comment if you have question, and God's willing, inshallah, I will be answering those questions uh, below those comment box, even though it might not be in full because I'm not good in explaining with writing. I prefer to explain in this manner. Or if you do have questions, type it in a PowerPoint form and email to us, email to the admin or even myself. Okay, so I guess that's about it as far as this Google map for the law is concerned. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your time. Wish me in zest a condition, means condition to follow on, and please support the channel and subscribe, and all the best to you. I end this session with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have a good day. Bye.